It's week 13. Let's talk about some players I love, hate, and a few sleepers. Let's get it started. Quarterbacks I love and hate this week. Brock Purdy going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have been one of the worst teams in the league against the quarterback position. Second easiest on the year. Purdy should light up the Eagles. Next up, we have Tua Tagovailoa going up against the Washington Commanders. The Dolphins should walk all over the Commanders. Again, one of the worst teams in the league against the quarterback position. Look for Tua to light them up. In that same game, Sam Howell, this isn't a good matchup for him, but I think he's going to have to throw the ball to keep up with the Dolphins, and throwing the ball leads to more fantasy points. I think he should have a solid game. Same with this next guy, Russell Wilson. I think that he has a fine game against the Houston Texans. He's going to have to score to keep up. This should be a nice back and forth affair. I'm actually looking forward to it. And for quarterbacks I hate this week, Matthew Stafford. There are plenty of players I don't like this week, but Matthew Stafford's a player you might actually be starting because he had a good game last week. Well, he goes against the Cleveland Browns this week, and I'm really not trying to mess with them Browns. The defense is a little banged up, so there's a chance he has an okay game, but I'm really not trying to roll the dice against one of the best defenses in the league. Wide receivers I love and hate this week. Now, obviously, everyone is starting Tyreek Hill, but are you starting Jalen Waddle? This kid has not been as advertised. People that drafted him expected him to ball out this year, be a top 15 player. Well, he hasn't been very consistent thus far, and that's led to some people not starting him. I think that Jalen Waddle should be played this week because the Dolphins should be able to throw all over the Commanders. The Commanders are the second worst team against the wide receiver. Fire up your Waddles. Next up, the Eagles might be one of the best teams in the league, but that secondary is suspect. That's why I think you should start Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk, especially Brandon Aiyuk. He's been the 7th best wide receiver in the last 3 games, and he goes up against the Eagles, who are the worst defense against a wide receiver this year. Wild. I know that you're probably starting Michael Pittman Jr., but are you starting Josh Downs? He had 13 targets last week. 13! That's the most he's had all year. I think they go back to him, and the Tennessee Titans defense is not very good. If you adjust for the schedule, they're the 7th worst defense in the last 5 games, and the 5th worst against wide receivers all year. I'm down with Downs. Wide receivers I hate this week, Drake London. He hasn't been great all season, and he goes up against the Jets, who have one of the best pass defenses in the league. Hard pass, no thank you. This next pick hurts. Chris Godwin. Oh man, it sucks to put a Buccaneer on this list, but he just hasn't been very good, and the Carolina Panthers don't really allow a lot of points to the wide receiver position. But on top of all of that, he just hasn't been performing. He doesn't have much of an upside. Now, I really, really hope I'm wrong on this one, but I don't think I am, unfortunately. Running backs I love and hate this week. Najee Harris. I didn't think I'd be saying that this year, but he's been performing. And Arizona is absolutely horrific against the running back position. They're the worst team in the league in the last 5 weeks. Wild. And yes, I also love Jaylen Warren. You can fire him up too. I also think Raheem Mostert has a fantastic game. The Commanders are also terrible against the running back position. Fire him up. Next up, we have King Henry. Derrick Henry is the king for a reason. He dominates matchups that him and his team are in, and they will be not only in this game, but fighting to win it. Look for Derrick Henry to have another dominant performance. Next up, this Bijan Robinson domination continues. They are finally starting to use him, and I think that continues this week against the Jets. The Jets are a good defense, but they're better at guarding the wide receiver than they are guarding the running back. I think Bijan Robinson should still have a great game. And one of my favorite, if not the favorite start of the week is Zach Moss. Going up against the Tennessee Titans. When Jonathan Taylor is not in, Zach Moss comes to play. Fire up this dude. I will be. Running backs I hate in week 13. Joe Mixon. As a player, I'm fine with him, but this Jacksonville Jaguars defense has been on a heater. They're the 3rd toughest defense against the running back position, and this offense is clearly broken. Could he fall into the end zone? Sure, literally anybody could, but I'm not counting on it. If you got another alternative, I'd use it. He's still startable, just 10 temper your expectations. Next up, the Carolina Panthers running backs. I don't want to start either one of them. Not Miles Sanders or Chuba Hubbard, who scored 20 fantasy points last week. That's awesome. But they get to go up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Bucs have been one of the best teams in the league against the running back position. I'd avoid this matchup if I could. Best case scenario, you got your fingers crossed that they throw the ball to these running backs 4 or 5 times. Lastly, Brian Robinson. I like him as a running back in general. Clearly he runs hard, but this Miami matchup is not conducive to his skill set. Not only is Miami the second best team against the running back the last 5 weeks, but I also expect them to be up in this game. And though Brian Robinson has increased the amount of targets he's received, you're gonna have to bank on that to keep him relevant in this matchup. I'm not saying you can't start him. I'm just saying to lower your expectations because I don't think that this will be a blow-up game. Don't expect 20, 30 points. He might get you between 8 and 15. Tight ends I love, hate, and a few sleepers. Sam Laporta bounced back after having 2 meh games, and I think he keeps it going up against New Orleans. In the last 5 weeks, the Saints have allowed the second most points to the tight end position. I think Laporta should have a good game. Evan Ingram's been playing pretty solid all year. He did have 2 down games, but he bounced back kind of with 10 points last week. I think he keeps it going facing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have been the worst team against the tight end this year, and the Jaguars are favored to win. Absolutely, fire him up. The New Orleans Saints are my sleeper pick. Taysom Hill, I think Taysom Hill is extremely versatile and can get played any week. But with Michael Thomas out, Raheed Shaheed banged up, and Chris Olave may or may not play coming off of a concussion, they're going to have to throw it to somebody. Taysom Hill might be one of those somebody. And if you need a deep sleeper, you can go with Juwan Johnson. Now, I know that this is a deep sleeper, but they're going up against the Detroit Lions. It's not a very good matchup, but you got to throw it to somebody. I think Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill should have a fine game. Defenses I love, hate, and some sleepers. I love the Miami Dolphins. Heading up against the Washington Commanders. Commanders don't scare you. Their offense is mid. And with Jalen Ramsey back, the secondary has been shored up pretty well. And don't even get me started on Sam Howell and how many sacks this guy takes. My goodness. The Dolphins had 7 last week against the Jets. Let's see if they can repeat that. Then we got to go with the Steelers versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals have been pretty mid, and the Steelers are a very good defense. Not to mention the Steelers are at home. Should be a good matchup. I hate the San Francisco 49ers. They're an incredible defense, but they're going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not trying to play anybody versus the Eagles. Same thing that goes with the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't want to play them against the San Francisco 49ers. They're one of the best offenses in the league. I'm staying away from this game. At least the defenses. The offensive players, I'm playing almost everybody. And for sleepers, the Atlanta Falcons going up against the New York Jets. Their quarterback situation is absolutely horrendous. I think the Falcons should show out. I also like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are the worst team in the league, and I think the Bucs show them that they are. The Bucs are better. It's a divisional matchup, so it'll be a lower scoring regardless. And I think Carolina has a tough time putting up points. It's crunch time now, people. And don't forget, the end of the season is coming up. You got 2 weeks before the playoffs. 2 teams on a bye. You should be looking ahead to week 14, and if you're gonna make the playoffs, you should be looking ahead for 15, 16, and 17. Go grab that extra defense. Go grab those receivers or running backs with upside. You should be ready for whatever comes at your team. You know what your squad needs. Go grab it now. There'll be plenty more videos where this came from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. Good luck in your matchups. Peace.